Now it's my pleasure to introduce Jorge Valenzuela. George is an education coach and speaker at Lifelong Learning Defined. He specializes in the emphasis on core instruction, team building, project-based learning, STEM, and SEL integration across the curriculum. George is the author of several books, including the one that this webinar is based on, and is currently fulfilling the requirements for his doctoral degree at Old Dominion University. And now, without further ado, I'll hand it off to George to get us started. Take it away.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Olivia. Thank you so much. Welcome to using project-based learning to help young people connect passion to purpose. And before beginning, I would love to thank my editor, Jessica Allen, who I know is watching. Hi, Jessica. Thank you for everything and for this opportunity. Also, Olivia Bartlett, who just spoke, Melissa, who's behind the scenes, and the entire team at Corwin for inviting me today. As stated previously, my name is George, and I know that everyone has been introducing themselves, so there's no need for me to tell you to introduce yourself. I did create a parking lot, which you will find in the chat. If someone can drop it in, I would appreciate it. And the parking lot has every resource, every video, every article, everything that you would need to follow along with this recording after we're done. Now, before beginning, I want to tell you a little bit about myself. I have 22 years of experience as both a classroom and online teacher, as a district administrator, as an education coach, author, and a speaker. In my current context, I'm a teacher at Old Dominion University in Virginia, and I'm the lead coach at Lifelong Learning Defined. I also coach educators on behalf of other top organizations like ASCD, Corwin, of course, Solution Tree, and Instructional Innovation Partners, among others. In these spaces, I coach thousands of educators all over the world, including my own students in the following topics. Please take a moment to view this, and don't worry if you can't capture this all, it is being recorded. I'm a published researcher in the Journal of Computer Science Integration, and I'm also the author of several books, including my brand new book, PBL+, which became available this month, which is the topic of our presentation. I hope that, well, I know that 2 people will win the book, but there's also 25% off for everyone else. And these are the objectives for our webinar. And if you look into the parking lot, not right now, but when you do, you'll see that every resource is labeled with one of these objectives. So it's very clear. And these are our webinar norms. And I would love if you pay attention to the first one. Please experience this session as a learner, as I will be discussing several high-yielding strategies that you can incorporate in your class immediately, even if you're not doing a project. Well, let's explain PBL+, which is my brand of project-based learning. And we call it PBL+, because we want to inspire you to focus on both academic learning and your core instruction in tandem with life skills, with an emphasis on social and emotional learning. But before proceeding, let's briefly define what we mean by life skills. As we all know, young people are not the same, and all don't need to focus on the same life skills. Some may need some help in understanding knowledge of self, others on social and emotional learning, or SEL. But others need to focus on life skills that you would typically see in a graduate profile in your district. In PBL+, we want teachers, parents, and kids to have say over the life skills that they know that their particular unique student needs. So I encourage you to think deeply about your kids and consider the life skills or the skills that they need to truly be successful. And I'll provide you some ideas of how to go about that throughout this session. So let's develop a better understanding about PBL+. And before we get into what PBL is, let's build some common understanding around what it's not.
Dressed like a president, James. Supposed to be Martin Van Buren. Who? Martin Van Buren. Google. Martin Van Buren.
Although comical, many of us have seen or done a project like this, either as a teacher, a parent, or a student. Our goal in this hour is to move beyond what a traditional project is and into understanding and implementing authentic project-based learning as a research-based instructional approach. So when we say PBL, what exactly do we mean by projects? And I would love if we see some responses in the chat. So take a moment, think about what you think we mean by projects or what projects truly mean, and then we'll take it from there. So I'll give you guys a few seconds. I would love to see the chat blow up. And I will read some responses as they come through. A way to show, let me see, I have to move this. A way to show high order thinking, a significant product demonstrating deep and transfer learning. Students make a product. One topic that is covering several subjects. Okay, good. So we have some understanding. Let's formally define PBL though. Project-based learning is a research-based instructional approach. And that's where I want us to really focus. It's a teaching methodology. It's a teaching method that is research informed, that educators can use to engage learners over an extended period of time, which means that learning doesn't happen immediately, not in 1 or 2 days. You have to do a unit, a project. Think of a project as a unit where young people work over some time to solve real world and compelling problems and acquire the skills and dispositions needed for successful lives. And so extended period is because there is intellectual challenge that needs to happen. Someone in the chat said higher order thinking skills. And so those need to be developed. For the past decade, I've had the pleasure of coaching educators in PBL throughout our country. For this purpose, I've been to 30 states and over 70 cities in the US. And I also teach PBL online, like I'm doing right now, to educators everywhere, even internationally. In my travels, I met a lot of educators, and there are several misconceptions about PBL that hold some of us back. So let's quickly dispel a few of those. If you're new to PBL, only implement one project a semester and for no more than 2 to 3 weeks at a time. That's important. Start small, build self-efficacy, build some confidence over time, and then we can do more than just one. Also, don't be afraid to tackle urgent social issues in your projects like health, education, the environment, economics, and financial literacy. One important concept to understand is that in PBL, the products or what the kids make are not the project. The project is the process, not the product. Another important concept to understand is that in PBL, the project is the main course of the learning, not the dessert. It doesn't come at the end. And this is a concept by PBL Works. So let's show a pacing chart to show what I mean. Typically in a meal, a dessert comes last. And in the dessert project or in a dessert project, so does the project. Look at the pacing chart. You're going to see lectures, activities, station rotations, all of the things you would typically see. And I'll sum it up real quick. You're going to see learning for about 2.5 weeks. After the learning, then the project, which is really a product, is created. And with very little turnaround time, it's then presented. In PBL, we introduced a project on day 1 in an entry event, or what I call in the book, a compelling hook. It's introduced on day 1, where young people learn what they must do in the project. They get all of their resources. They build a team, and you can even invite an expert. And if you see, there's a mini lesson instead of a lecture. Mini lesson is really direct instruction for about 10, 15 minutes, where the learning target is unpacked, where we answer any clarifying question, where we explain what work time is all about. There's always some reflection built in. And because young people are working on their product in drafts, there's always a feedback protocol as a formative assessment after every draft. And the process, it really repeats itself until the end, where the product is presented to the public. And the public is anyone outside the four walls of the classroom. For example, administrators, other classes, parents, business and industry, our community. In PBL, the work is public. And some teachers love to see it like this. And I like to use a workshop model where if you look here, that's my mini lesson, which is really tier 1 instruction. It's the whole group message, right? But then I do some flexible grouping. And in that grouping, there could be work with the teacher, where it's teacher-led, work with a peer, where it's student-led, and then individual work. And that's really work with the teacher. That could be your tier 2 instruction. And sometimes if you bring someone in, then that could be tier 3 as well. But what you're seeing is that there's a bigger chunk of work time where you can move around and help those that need help. And then at the end, we do reflection, and then we close out. So let me give you this information in a different way. And it's really just a 4-step square dance that I do in my class. And honestly, I do it even if I'm not doing projects. There's the mini lesson, which is tier 1, 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes tops. Then there's work time. That work time is about 25, 30 minutes. We reflect because they're working in drafts. At the end of draft 1, there's a feedback protocol. After the protocol, which is a formative assessment, then there's more work time where they can either revise or they can continue learning. And I'm going to stop for a moment and just see what folks are writing in the chat. Authentic product, great to integrate RTI. Yes, yes. Just because we're doing a project, it doesn't mean that we're not teaching. If you remember, my work, it really focuses on core instruction. It's building a teacher's self-efficacy and confidence for how they teach. And we can use projects, we can use any form of experiential learning, but there's gotta be an emphasis on core instruction. How long are these class sessions overall typically? Well, it all depends. And I'll go back a little bit. So I've seen classes where they have 55 minutes, they have 60 minutes, they have 90 minutes. I built in time for that. However, I was in Maryland County this week and they only have 30 minutes with ESOL students. So what I would say is if you introduce your mini lesson and then you introduce work time, but you don't have a lot of time, when they come back, maybe in this blue section, in the hook, remind them of what the work is, and then jump straight into work time. So what I would do is I would do work time until they complete draft 1. So if you go back and you look at the pacing, and this is if you see kids every other day, it all depends on how you would do it. I will build in a little bit of flex time so that you can take into account those young people that need more time to finish. And I hope that that made sense. Okay, so just to recap, your project is the same thing as your unit plan. Okay, think of it that way. Okay, so every time you see Dewey at the end of an explanation of a video in my workshops, we know it's time to reflect, and it's reflection for metacognition. And Dewey says we do not learn from experience, we learn from reflecting on experience. So let's look at the reflection questions, and you can answer just one of them. Take a moment. How has your understanding of PBL shifted thus far? Or how would you explain this concept to a colleague? Take a moment, and if you would like to answer in the chat, we can read a couple of them, and then we'll proceed. It's not creating a project, it's about the process. Exactly. It's like STEM, right? We do have a product, we do have an end goal, but it's more about the knowledge that we learn or the construction of knowledge along the way. According to Mander, no one is born learning how to think critically and problem solve. They have to be taught, and this is a way to learn. And that's why I said it's an extended period of time because there's intellectual challenge that must occur. Okay, project is the same as unit plan. I like the way you started. You stated this is your unit. Yes, yes. We have to use language that our teachers understand, and we have to connect things to what they already do. I'm a teacher and I know teachers very well. We do not like something else that we have to do, unless it's something that we're really, really passionate about. But yes, we in PBL Plus, we are connecting our core instruction and what we're already doing to this new concept. Okay. All right. So if you look at the cover of the book, we purposely put a framework and a brain. And this ties into a concept that I learned in my PhD program. Before anything becomes a mindset, something that you naturally do, it has to be a framework first. Therefore, framework first, mindset second. It's a powerful principle that I lift up in all my workshops, in all of my teaching for learners of all ages. And it's basically this. You need a framework so you can understand some good general guidelines of where you're starting. And frameworks are like recipes. Now let's pretend for a minute, make believe we're in our kitchen and we're making a brand new dish, something we've never done before, sort of like a kid that's learning something new, a new concept, and then doing a new practice. Let's say we have all the ingredients for that lasagna that we've never made before, and we have all the tools, but we have no framework, we have no recipe. We're not going to get very far. But if we have the recipe or the framework and we follow it 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times, then we don't need it after a while. Then it becomes part of our mindset, part of us and what we naturally do, and then it's easy to do. So this is the framework I designed for our book, PBL Plus. And it's a result of lots of data collections over the years of conducting lots of PBL workshops that inform me about what teachers need in order to do PBL with strong working knowledge, understanding what the process is, but also building self-efficacy for implementing it along the way. So let's focus on number one for a moment, which is understanding PBL as a research-informed instructional approach. The consensus of the entire PBL community of experts back in 2018, they all came together and they agreed that these would be the elements for research-informed PBL, meaning that in order for a project to be high quality, these would be the elements that young people would need to experience in the project. Take a moment and I'll read questions. Okay. Okay. So if you look at the elements really quick, they define, if you read that real quick, they define what the student should experience. And now that we understand PBL better, let's bridge it with life skills. And how do we do that? How do we bridge our teaching, whether PBL or not, with life skills? Well, an old mentor back in the day, and I'm dating myself, back in 2007, when I first left the classroom and I went into administration, and I was working with 40 teachers at the time, he said to me, before you buy any books, any PD, any equipment, before you even plan your lesson, you have to ask yourself, what do the kids that I teach need? That's the first thing we ask. So I'm going to ask you, what do the kids that you teach need? And just drop that into the chat a little bit. Just drop a few responses real quick. And it could be things that they need as people, not just as learners. Confidence, yes. Jeremy Reyes said confidence. Self-efficacy, yes. Critical thinking, okay. Now it can be personal stuff too. Independence, okay. They need lessons that are engaging. Oh, yes, they do. And that's why I'm asking you what they need, because it's got to be engaging. Connection to the other human beings, yes. Social emotional, okay. Okay, great. So let's be honest. CDC data tells us that after the pandemic, young people need emotional support more than ever. Many are suffering from poor mental health, feeling isolated, but also feeling hopeless, and some even experience racism. And then we have young people that are abusing substances like drugs, alcohol, and vaping. In addition to that, many struggle at home. Some experience emotional abuse, verbal abuse, physical abuse, and even poverty. As a result, what I'm seeing, and I'm also seeing data, but I'm in schools every week, we see a lot of young people that don't want to be in school. And truthfully, a lot of them, they come to us with a lot of needs. And I really do believe this, that our teachers in our schools are at the front lines of what's happening in the community, in the home, and not happening there. And it's not easy. Now, you all typed a bunch of stuff and you put it into the chat. And if you look at the word cloud here, you know, this is an amalgam of what you said, but also things that we know young people need. But like the word cloud, in real life, everything is often jumbled up. It's not easy to really achieve all of these things, and for a variety of reasons. And it can't happen in one semester, in one school year. It's really a lot. And it's not just a lot for young people. It's a lot for us, the adults. I believe if we focus on things that the kids care about, things that they're passionate about, and even if they're not passionate about something, if they have an interest, we can cultivate that and help them find some purpose, not just in their schoolwork, but also in the things that they're doing every day. Can I show you an example of passionate youth in a project?
West Middle School in Compton, California. Our tech team are exploring environmental issues in our community, and we are trying to create measurable solutions. Here are some ideas that we've been working on. The problem that my group is trying to solve is environment issues, which is for me, energy. In Compton, we have a lot of traffic and cars, and we need to improve our public transportation. My project is about a recycling robot that goes to people's houses to connect cans. So I'm learning about the carbon footprint, and my goal is to have it so that everyone in Compton has a lower carbon footprint than they have now. I've been collecting data, and I found out that in my family, our carbon footprint is above average, which isn't good.
We are working on food deserts, where there's not that many nice and organic food stores. There's maker markets, supermarkets, but right there they have junk food, soda, chips.
We're gonna take the project back to our community and we're basically gonna inform people about what food deserts are, because some people don't actually recognize that we are living in a food desert.
My project is about illegal dumping. Sometimes when I'm walking on the sidewalk, there's like just trash. People actually dump like hazardous things. Like for example, the wood pallets, they have nails. They split them open and you walk. You could walk. You never know what a nail is. You could step on it.
It's important for me because it involves me and my family. And it feels great to help other people fix this problem as well, because it also affects them.
It's important for students in Compton to know so that we can teach others on how to be eco-friendly, so that we can do it ourselves, make sure the world is a better place.
Me da felicidad saber que podemos ayudar a otras personas, poder resolver sus problemas, en vez de que otras personas lo hagan, nos hace sentir a nosotros mejor, más felices, pues dar ideas, o hacer de nosotros.
We need them throughout the whole process. Science to research, technology to code and program, engineering to design the robot. And we use math to find the data that we need to build the robot.
It can be very fun to help our community solving different problems and the kind of stuff we learn here at school.
Before I started doing the research, I was just walking around, see the traffic network, it's just part of the normal day. I found out that if we actually find a solution to this problem, it could be a big change in our environment and community. So I feel like I'm doing my part.
So before proceeding, I have to give a shout out to Jose Gonzalez, Michelle Lawson, and the entire team at Compton ISD. I used to do PBL workshops at that school before the pandemic, and I haven't seen a better product than this. And I know there's other ones out there, but I'm a little bit biased. But okay, please reflect for a moment, and you can use the sentence stems if you like. When I saw blank in the video, I felt blank. It makes me think blank. Let's read a couple of responses and then we'll move forward. And that's really what I was speaking about: passion, interests. We can still teach the same things that we do in school, but within the scope or the interest of the child. In this case, it was their community. And so that was important. Love seeing the focus on real, authentic instruction and products. Yeah. And if you saw, only the kids were speaking. And PBL, it's a public product. The public is going to view it like you're viewing it right now. So there's time spent on practicing and rehearsing how to explain their work. It's not just doing, it's not just hands-on, it's minds-on. It's critical thinking, it's problem solving, but then also explaining. And explaining to the public is not just a video. It could be an article, it could be social media, it could be anything, a PSA, but it has to be polished and viewed by the public. Jana Vasquez writes, when I saw the students working together in the video, yes, I changed words around, I felt happiness. It makes me think that the students were confident in their work. Yes. And you think that they became confident right away, or that they build self-efficacy for a specific task? And after doing those tasks over a period of time, then they built that self-confidence. And that's how it's built. I felt excited by the passion I could clearly see that students exhibit for making their community a better place. They felt enabled to actually make a difference and receive feedback. Of course, timely feedback, because in PBL Plus, we do a feedback protocol after every draft. After every draft. So feedback is built in to the work time. Okay, and we will move forward. So I'm going to show you a shortcut to helping young people first explore their passions. And I have an inventory that's in the parking lot. There's an article that's going to explain each of the steps that I'll be showing you. There's a student inventory, and there's also a bank of different things that they can explore if they're not sure what they care about. So the first thing I want to say is that there's easy and hard ways to do the same thing, as we can see. And if it's too hard, if something is too complex, young people are going to give up. So what I'm saying is to try to simplify the process as much as possible. And that's why I always show the framework. And these are the 5 steps that I've developed through my work and through mapping my own journey backwards to help not just young people, anyone, help them explore passion, find it. Even if they don't find it, that's fine, but find some purpose. So the first thing is this: the concept of passion isn't universal, and not every single person is going to find something that they're completely invested in and passionate about. That's the first thing we need to understand, and that's okay. However, we have to try. We have to get young people to start thinking about that so that they can make themselves happy and explore and cultivate their interests so they can find purpose. So before getting into passion, I think it's important that we help young people understand happiness and sadness. Has anyone ever heard that money can't make you happy? And I'll look in the chat. Has anyone heard that money can't make you happy? All the time. Well, according to research, that's not entirely true. There are external factors like a new relationship, a new toy, or a brand new car, or you bought a house, or you got some money that will make you happy. But research consistently also shows that it's not forever, right? It doesn't, once you get a certain amount, you don't actually think about it as much. What I'm talking about is helping young people to help themselves. Research also shows that happiness can come from within by doing things that they like to do, that we like to do. And the same thing with stress. Research shows that stress can come from external factors. Someone that is annoying us, not having resources, butting heads with the same person over and over again. That's not what we're talking about here. Remember, we want them to help themselves. What we're talking about is the unhappiness or stress that comes from within, from doing things that they don't like to do. So I would encourage young people to assess what makes them happy and do more of those things. And what we can do as teachers, we can allow them to explore those things in our projects. Now that young people have considered what they like, right, and what they don't like, now they can explore passion. And so here's the thing: they may not even know where they should begin. So here's some questions that they can ask themselves. And don't forget, passion is not entirely love. Love, that you can love someone and it goes up and down. It's also a verb, something you do unconditionally, hopefully. But passion is a compelling enthusiasm for something. And it's not always easy to turn off. So just have them do the inventory. What do you think about the most? What do you want to change so much that you stay up all night? Things like this. What would you do for free if money wasn't an object? And so the thing is here, though, if we don't have that rapport with the kids, and there are some kids that will tell us, I don't care about anything. I'm not passionate about nothing. And that's okay. If they don't find a passion, ask them to think about their interests, because you can cultivate an interest and turn it into a passion. But let's say they have nothing. That's okay too. We can go straight to step 5, which I will get there in a moment. Now, for those that have identified a passion or an interest, it's very important that they set a goal. They have to want to accomplish something with that interest. And what I would say is this: don't worry about not knowing how to accomplish this goal. And, as adults, we all have accomplished things that we had to figure out. And that's what we're going to explain to them. So the first thing is that they pay attention to the recurring thoughts. There's a very powerful principle, and I want to ask folks in the chat, has anyone read The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Dr. Stephen R. Covey? Let me see if folks have read that book. It's a powerful book. Yes, lots of thumbs up. So Dr. Covey says this, that everything that you see in the physical world has been created 3 times. First in thought, then on paper, and then hands-on. It's brought into reality. Tell young people to pay attention to what is coming up as a way to start solving to achieve a goal. And then they can talk about it and plan it. But here's the thing: when they're doing that, they should only tap into experts, tap into people that have already accomplished that thing. And that's one of the hallmarks of PBL, is that adults work with young people as guides and mentors. And I would even go as far as to say that don't learn from a person that hasn't done what you want to, because it could be a waste of time. And now, as they're talking and planning and they're making a roadmap, now they can start to implement. And here's the thing: in tandem with learning from experts, they need to monitor their energy. We have good days, we have bad days, and our internal state sometimes is positive. And it's really positive when we're failing forward, when we're seeing little successes, where we're seeing, okay, there's light at the end of the tunnel. But when we're not seeing success, or we're feeling lazy, we may have some negative energy. We have to tell young people this. We have to be honest with them. We will never accomplish the things that we want to if we don't work hard for it. So we have to monitor our internal states. And I see this online all the time. It's okay not to be okay. And I get that. But I would add, but it's not okay to stay there. You have to have a mantra. You have to find a way out of negative states. And step 4 is to master their passion or their skills using the 10,000 hour rule. There's a book named Outliers. It's by Malcolm Gladwell. And you may have heard of it. I'm not telling you to buy the book, but he has a powerful principle in this book. It's called the 10,000 hour rule. And all of the top experts in the world, here's only a couple, but there's a lot more. A lot of them share this in common. That's 3 hours a day, 20 hours a week for 10 years, at least 10 years. They have learned from experts. The research shows it's got to be a tandem, learning from experts, receiving instruction, but also practicing and working on their craft. And here's the final step, is to use what they've learned, use their passion, use their interests to help other people. And remind them of this, that your passion, what you care about, it's about you. It's about what makes you feel fulfilled. However, I believe that we were put here to help other people. And so encourage them. Now, how do we figure out a way to help others? And here's the thing. Let's say they don't have a passion and they went straight to step 5. Well, here's the thing. There's documentation and there's research that shows that helping others, helping the community, helping animals, helping nature is such a powerful act that you don't have to be passionate or care about anything in particular to receive its benefit and its fulfillment. And there's a CEO of Brand Builders Group. His name is Rory Vaden, and he has a powerful quote. He says, "You are always powerfully positioned to help the person that you used to be." And let's say young people are stuck. Well, here's some things that they can consider. What path have you walked down? What problems have you solved? What obstacles have you overcome? And, well, so Dennis is asking, do you identify and make available a list of experts? Well, with little kids, I would do that. I would definitely do that. But in the inventory, when you go into the parking lot and you download it, there's a criteria for them finding their own expert. But they don't contact the expert. That's the thing. They have to share that with you because you never know, what's going on. Okay. I hope that makes sense. But yes, they should seek out folks, but they should get your blessing first, and you should make the contact along with the student, especially younger students. Okay. So we see Dewey again. We know we're going to reflect. Okay, I want you to take a couple of minutes. And it says 3 minutes, but let's take a couple of minutes. And I want you to write down your thoughts about what we just saw. And I want you to shift gears. And I'm assuming not everyone here is everyone here is a teacher. Okay, so I want you to consider your students. How can we take this information? How can we present it and help them? And don't forget, there's an inventory for this. It's all in the parking lot, and there's an article explaining each step, and you get the science behind each step as well. And I will time this a couple of minutes. Okay. Olivia, how much time do we have left? I just want to make sure I'm not going over.
Oh, we still got about 20 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Time flies with this stuff, right?
Right.
Yeah, it just flies. Okay. All right. So I'll give you guys a couple of minutes. Okay. Access the parking lot. I'm going to go back and see what other stuff was in the chat. So many good interest inventories. Yeah, there's a lot of different stuff. Passion could be created by repetition. Okay. See, I didn't know that. And that's the thing. Like, this presentation is what George has understood over 40 years, right? However, you take the information that you can adapt and you do it your own way. Just know that you're in good hands. It is research-based. These are high-yielding strategies. They're very well thought out, but you might have a better way to do this, and that's okay. Okay, all right. Okay. Is it okay for me to move forward? If folks can just put yes into the chat, I'll be happy to move forward. Wait, someone wrote, my student teachers have to create an authentic unit as a teacher work sample to complete their student teaching. They develop, teach, and evaluate the unit and determine the effect size. For my high school student teachers, I want them to feel free to develop a PBL unit as well. Yeah, and what you can do is when you go in the parking lot, there's a template. There's a template that you can download that's actually from the book. But I'm giving you the template, even though you didn't buy the book. It's okay. And you can download the template, but there's also 2 examples There's a project unit example, which is a little bit longer because they're working on 2, 3 different products in the unit. But then there's a performance task example, which is like a mini project where they're only completing one product. And the reason why I put those examples into the parking lot is so that you can have a working model or an example as they start to build their own units. Okay. In the parking lot. Okay. So if you go into the parking lot, you're going to see this article. And if you look into the article, all the inventories are there. Now, if it's not specifically in the parking lot, I will make sure that it's in there, but it's in this article. And it says SEL on top. And the reason why they named it that is because there's self-awareness that they're trying to develop as they're exploring their passions. That's self-awareness. It's also knowledge of self. And so they, Edutopia named it that. But it's really self-awareness, which is a part of SEL. All right, y'all. I want us to focus again on life skills before moving forward. And let's quickly recap the life skills that we previously mentioned. Knowledge of self. And knowledge of self, I have to say, I do a youth empowerment program with young people in Maryland. I've done the work in Illinois and Sacramento. And we started out as SCL, but because we're doing action research as we're going along. And one of the things that I found out is that with at-risk youth, young people that come from families that are essentially broken, sometimes they have to work on their knowledge of self, is to know who they are better. And the inventory, like we just saw, that can help them. And self-awareness is to know why you do what you do. So they do go hand in hand. But all this is in the book. But what I want y'all to what I want to hit home is this. All kids are not the same, and you can help them and meet them where they are. Okay? But regardless of what we do, emotional intelligence is at the core of life skills. And there's a quote by John Hattie, which says that life skills, SEL, whatever you want to call them, they have to be implemented at least 40 times before they stick. So this type of learning, and if you think about it, all learning takes time. Nothing happens in one night, in one lesson, in one unit. So one of the things that I say to my teachers is this: we care about the outcomes. We want to see positive outcomes. We want to see them be better citizens, be more civic-minded, think of others. However, if we emotionally connect to seeing the outcome immediately, we might be disappointed. And one of the things that I remember, I grew up in the 80s, is that we didn't backtalk adults. We didn't even curse in front of adults. It just didn't happen back then, like how we see now. But I remember that when an adult would tell me something, in my mind, I'm thinking, I know what's best for me and you don't, and I'm going to do what I want to do. And I remember thinking this way and yesing them to death and actually working harder for the teacher that showed an interest in me and showed me that they liked me. But an incredible thing happened at the age of 25. At the age of 25, I had an epiphany that I really wasn't as smart as I thought I was, and that the adults that had said things to me that would replay in my mind, and maybe you're nodding if you know what I'm talking about, I actually realized that they were right about a lot of things. So we're planting seeds and we're having them implement these things. Someone wrote in the chat, repetition is the mother of skill. And like Aristotle said, we are what we do repeatedly. Success is not a singular act, it's an accumulation of acts. So how can teachers naturally facilitate the development of life skills? How can we do that? And that's hard to do. So I have to ask us a question. Oh, I'm sorry. How can teachers naturally facilitate the development of life skills? And I have a question. Can our unconscious expectations influence the performance of others? I want you to think for a moment and just put yes or no in the chat. And maybe you have heard that speaking nice to plants or warmly to plants helps them grow. People are saying yes. All right. So Olivia, can you help us out? Because there's a PhD, Dr. Bob Rosenthal that tried to answer this question with mice. Would you read that for us, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So an experiment using rats sheds light on the power of expectations. Researchers were told that certain rats were either smart or unintelligent, even though they were all the same. Surprisingly, the rats labeled as smart performed better, showing how expectations impact interactions and learning. This phenomenon can extend to humans too, affecting student scores, teenagers' behaviors, and even soldiers' performance. Recognizing the power of expectations, like a teacher expecting success, might lead to more positive outcomes in various situations.
And she read that so much better than I could have. Let's give her some snaps, y'all. Let's give her some virtual snaps. Thank you for helping us out. Well, I want to show you something that a school system in Texas did, an example of speaking positivity and having high expectations for young people. I think it's powerful.
Asked us to pick a student.
That we really believe in. I picked you, and I chose you, and I chose you.
I chose you because every day you have an infectious smile and you always have the greatest attitude.
I knew that you were my students. You were the reason that I come to work every day, every single day. Because you're so passionate, it just brightens my day every day to know that I can see you. And I picked you because I wanted to tell you how much you inspire me every day. Every day you smile. You make me so happy. You inspire me to be better, and you're very special. You're asking to the students that we believe in. And because of what I believe about you, is that you are amazing, that you have overcome some hard things in your life, and you've overcome with a smile. I should you. I love you to death. I loved having you in class all last year. They wanted us to pick someone who we believe in. And why we come to work every day, because it's not for me. And I chose you. So very proud of the direction that you're going in. And I just think that you have endless possibilities ahead of you. Our whole class looks to you to make us laugh every single day. And I just wanted to let you know that I believe in you. You can do anything you put your mind to, and you have a bright future ahead of you. So I chose you.
I believe in you. I love you. I think you guys are the best thing ever. So I want you to know that I believe in you.
I believe in me. I believe in myself. I believe in myself. I believe in myself. I believe in myself. I believe in myself.
So I saw this video out near Fresno, California. There's a superintendent, Dr. Ochoa, if you're watching, and he showed this to his staff. And we're living, I believe, in one of the most difficult times for education. And a lot of our teachers are not sure even where to begin with all this stuff. Obviously not the ones who are logged in tonight, but there's a lot of teachers that aren't sure. And so I think if we just start with some, positive thoughts and speaking them into young people. And I'm not saying it'll build a relationship. Relationships take time. And behind every closed door, and behind every great relationship, there's a lot, that there could be some hard conversations, especially when we have students that don't do what they're supposed to do. However, I think we can start with building rapport. And that's really a great way to do that. Can everyone say in the chat, I promise that I will speak some positivity into my kids, into my teachers, if I'm a supervisor, and into others. Just put I promise into the chat, because intentions are such a powerful thing. I promise. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Fantastic. So I want to model this really quick. So meet Graham. That's my cat. And let me know in the chat if you have a cat. Let me know if you have a cat. And the reason why I bring up Graham is because I already talk positive to people. That's not something I really had to work on. I'm in the business. I'm in the people business. I'm a teacher. And I have to go to I'm in 2 cities every week. And you can look up on my social media and see that. And so my cat is a toxic little guy. And for people that have cats, you know that most cats, well, I can't say most, but a lot of cats are not like dogs. They're not affectionate. So Graham, which we love, which we wouldn't trade for anything, if he were a human being, he would be the human that would read your text and it would say read, but he wouldn't respond to it. And so I picked him up one day and I said, I'm going to talk some positivity into this guy. And I held him like this. And I said, Graham, you are the king of the house. You are so warm and loving, and you are the best cat. And my wife said, are you crazy? And I said, well, I'm trying to speak some positivity into him. And I swear 2 weeks ago, before I was leaving for a trip, he jumped into bed, not for a long time, but for a couple of minutes. He allowed me to love on him a little bit. So I'm going to be trying, and hopefully in a future webinar, I can let you guys know what happened with Graham. All right. We are running out of time and we want to do a Q&A. So what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to skip all of this, and I encourage you to please buy the book, have your district, hopefully, if they can buy the book. If you want to do professional development, I have a 2-day workshop where I coach educators modeling high yielding strategies, but also developing a PBL unit and adapting units that are already in the book. And some simple life skill tools that are in the book are these 3, and they're available for everyone. All right, so I'm going to fast forward through all of this because we don't have the time. But I do want to say a couple of things. And tell your kids this. Relationships are like a game of tennis. You hit the ball over and someone hits it back. If you're hitting the ball over and having to run around to hit it back to the other side, let them know that's not their friend. Also, think of helping kids learn. Think of it as a farmer. A good farmer knows that the farmer doesn't make plants grow. Instead, they focus on the conditions for that growth to occur. And so the same thing in education. We use high yielding strategies. We use our art, how we do things. We also consider science so we can get the best results. All right, I'm going to fast forward through all this. Thank you so much. I really appreciate everyone being here with us tonight, everyone at Corwin for making this happen. Don't forget, we have the parking lot.
And now we do have a couple of questions. We do have, a minute or 2 left. We can quickly go through these. So we had a question from Dennis who asked, I can see where you're incorporating many of the elements of the gradual release of responsibility framework. You have the expert modeling and collaborative instruction. Do you build in guided instruction?
Yeah, so you know what? I have a slide that I created for a client today. And hold on, let me stop sharing this. I'm going to share a different slide if that's okay. Yeah, so remember when we discuss using a workshop model? Can everyone see this? Can you say yes in the chat so that I know, or a thumbs up that we are seeing this? Okay, so what we're doing in PBL Plus is we're combining direct instruction along with flexible grouping. So what that means is this: in the mini lesson, that's your direct instruction. That's the whole group message. That's your tier 1. And that goes right here. That's your mini lesson, okay? But your flexible grouping, it happens here. And so that guided instruction, that would be working with a teacher, working with a para, and even some student-led strategies like reciprocal reading, jigsaw, where, young people work together. And then some young people like to work individually. So in PBL Plus, it's flexible. You pick what your kids need, but there is that moment where they can work with you and you can help them in that guided learning, like I do, you do, or whatever other strategies. I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, thank you. And then our next question comes from Karen. How do you handle kids wanting to do what their friend is doing versus something of their own?
Yeah. So what I would do is this, and it's in the book as well, is young people need a task list. So for example, if they're working, so I'm a computer science teacher, and I know that in computer science, there's different jobs. There's a software engineering or the project manager, there's the software developer, there's a programmer. And so if you give everyone a specific job, and then there's a task list, which you can download, I think it's on Corwin's site, but it's definitely in the book. And if everyone has a task that they're responsible for, then that's what they are graded for, if that makes sense. And so if you do a couple of projects, then they get to, try different roles in your class, but you grade them on the work that they complete, not on their group work, but actually on the part of the product that they help develop. That's where they get graded.
Perfect. And then I think our last question comes from Allison. How do you keep up with new skills in technology like programming to meet student needs? Students are interested but don't have the skills, and neither do I. We're learning together, but that can also be difficult, and students sometimes lose interest, especially if it doesn't apply to a future career.
Exactly. I would bring in an expert. When you're trying new things, it's cool to go on YouTube, it's cool to go online. But honestly, if, I have a coach in the gym, I have a nutritionist, I see a therapist once in a while if I need help. You find a person that's already done it. I would look in your peer group, find out if they know anyone that's into artificial intelligence, that's into AI, into programming, into things like that, things that the kids would like. And I would invite that person to speak with the kids so they know what that job entails. And in PBL, they're working in the place of that worker. And so in PBL, there's some work on the front end. There is, but they actually do the work as the project's rolling out, and I would leverage experts.
All right, great. I think that is all the time that we have today. If you do have questions that didn't get answered today, feel free to send them along to us at info@corwin.com, and we'll go ahead and send those to George and get those answered for you. And yes, I saw some of you asking about the presentation. We will be sending a recording of this presentation to you in a follow-up email that will also contain your certificates. But yeah, thank you again to George, and thank you to everyone who joined us and participated today, and have a wonderful rest of your week.
Hey, Olivia,
Yeah,
would you mind staying on real quick after
sure.
everyone leaves? Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Bye, everyone.
All
Thank you
right,
so
goodbye,
much.
everyone.